probably decrease the dose slightly. And so in this study, after we treated them, before and after treatment, we did some measures. I did skeletal muscle biopsies on these patients, and we analyzed their mitochondria under electron microscopy. We also did blood tests, and we also did exercise tests to see was their exercise capacity improved. And this is just a summary of the patients. And these are just a slide showing that their epicatechin levels actually improved after 3 months. And this is just some electron microscopy slides from a representative patient. And what you see here is this is a mitochondria, and this is the mitochondria. And these little projections are what we call cristae. And cristae is where ATP is made. And what we found is that patients after treatment, they had more mitochondria, and they actually had more cristae. And anecdotally, the patients told us that they felt that they could do more and they had more energy. There were some patients that actually reported weight loss. So it was a proof of concept study. No one's going to hang their hat on a non-placebo controlled study, but it was where we started. It was where we wanted to figure out what is the right patient population for this compound. This is just another figure showing the differences in the cristae. Basically, you don't see any of those projections before, and after treatment, you do. And these are just some anecdotal observations from the trial. A patient noticed weight loss. We saw improvements in a parameter where you assess how severe the diabetes is, which is the hemoglobin A1C, and LDL is the bad cholesterol, and we saw some improvements. Again, very anecdotal findings. The other interesting thing that we saw that we just recently published from this trial is we also saw a change in the skeletal muscle structure in these patients. So this is the before, and none of us do electron microscopy on a full-time basis, so I'm going to try to make this simple. This is a patient biopsy before and after. And in the before sample, what you can see is there's not a lot of architecture or scaffolding to the skeletal muscle. And then when you see after 3 months, you actually see some bands and some organization. So you see improvement in fundamental sarcomeric structure after treatment. And this is, again, another patient just to highlight those differences. And we did some very formal scoring by electron microscopy, and we noted those differences were significant. This is a little too technical about dystrophin, which is a protein that's very important for skeletal muscle structure, and we showed that it improved. But I won't bore you too much with the technical details. I'm going to go over kind of the big highlights. So based on over 5 years of research, what we've shown is that epicatechin actually improves mitochondrial structure by improving the number of mitochondria and also the cristae. And we think that there's a lot of different things that this compound does. It's already been established in the literature that improves nitric oxide. We knew that when we started, but this is what we added, is the mitochondrial part. And when you put these two things together, it's so fundamental to cellular biology that there's a lot of other things that are happening. If you improve endothelial function and you improve skeletal muscle function, you improve somebody's ability to exercise. And one of the fundamental ways in research that you assess that is you do something called a VO2 max, or maximal oxygen capacity. You basically put somebody on a treadmill or a bicycle, and you see how far they can go, and you take measurements from that, and you can do some before and after measurements. But when you improve somebody's ability to exercise, especially patients that have diabetes and heart failure, you improve their quality of life. One of the ways many drugs are approved by the FDA is, can a patient walk more? Do they feel less short of breath? And if you can improve somebody's ability to walk half a block or 2 blocks, you made a big difference in their functional status and their life. So we think this compound has a lot of great therapeutic potential, and we're working on figuring out exactly what the best patient population to target based on some of this research will be. I'm just going to talk about a lot of the studies you might have heard of in the lay press, because this comes up on CNN about once a month. Dark chocolate is better for mood, dark chocolate is better for coronary disease, and it's based on a lot of these studies where they've looked at large populations, some in Europe, and they look at rates of myocardial infarction, rates of heart failure, rates of diabetes, rates of high blood pressure, and they look at people's diets. And based on that and good statistics, they make some observations. Again, the best way to really make a good argument is to do a double-blind, placebo-controlled study, which is the gold standard. But these are all data that are converging at this time. This was a study that one of my colleagues at UCSD did that showed that when people consume dark chocolate, they tend to be thinner. And what's really interesting is she had no idea of some of the mechanism data where we showed that epicatechin affects the mitochondria. And it makes sense. If you improve metabolism, if people have more energy, if they're exercising more, of course they're going to lose weight. So again, there's a lot of convergence from a lot of different disciplines on this one topic. This is just another paper showing that people that had dark chocolate consumption had a much smaller incidence of heart attacks compared to those that didn't. So I'm going to start concluding and try to give you implications, things that you can take from the talk. I want to make a parallel from omega-3. We have all heard of how omega-3s are beneficial. And the best way to get omega-3 really is to eat a lot of fish. But some of us, including myself, don't eat fish. And so you can take an omega-3 supplement. And these supplements have so many great properties. At a cellular level, omega-3s are thought to decrease inflammation. Cardiologists prescribe omega-3s to improve people's lipid profile. Specifically, it can improve your triglycerides. There's actually a prescription form of omega-3 called Lavazza that we give to patients that have high triglycerides. So similarly, from chocolate, that we are trying to extract epicatechin and ideally give it to consumers who maybe can't take chocolate for various reasons, whether they don't like the taste of it, or whether they can't eat sugar and they don't want the calories, they don't want the fat. So that's where we'd like to go down the road with epicatechins. So when I gave you the outline, I wanted to end the talk by giving you some practical tips on what you can do. Because study after study and every research protocol that we've implemented has shown positive results. And we've had collaborators across the country that have replicated our results. So I really think that there is, in the next 10 years, you're going to see an explosion in this field, and you're going to see some drugs created from this and also some commercially available products that you will consume. But until then, the things that you can do are take 2 small squares of dark chocolate a day. If you do that, I think you will notice that your energy levels are better. If you have diabetes, I think you'll notice your blood sugars are better. If you have high blood pressure, I think you'll notice that your blood pressures are slightly better. Again, the more bitter the dark chocolate tastes, the better, because that means you're getting your epicatechins. If you ever buy dark chocolate and it doesn't taste bitter, then you're safe to assume that they've probably processed the epicatechins out. What if you don't like chocolate? So one of my problems is when I eat chocolate, I tend to eat too much of it. And I know about that bell-shaped curve, and I know that I can't eat too much of it. So I actually like other ways to get dark chocolate, and this is actually a product that I use. I have no research support, no ties to this company. I just like the product. It's a flavanol extract, and it's called Cocovia. You can either take it in capsules or you can put it in your in water, and it's 20 calories. And I usually do half a packet because if you take a full packet, you're overdosing. So I take about a quarter to a half a packet a day and just put it in water. It's 10 calories, and that way, if you're a chocoholic, you don't overeat. And so when I talk to other physicians, these are some of the scenarios that I've instructed them to try with their patients based on some of the data that we have. Again, high blood pressure is a good cohort. There's been small-scale studies in which dark chocolate has been given to patients with high blood pressure, and it's very helpful. Hyperlipidemia, it reduces the bad cholesterol, it reduces triglycerides. And based on some of the slides that I showed you, with the muscle architecture being fundamentally changed, patients that have muscle wasting, so for instance, maybe you had your knee injured and you went through a major surgery and you can't exercise for 6 weeks, your muscles start to atrophy even in a short period of time. That would be a great scenario for you to take some dark chocolate. Other scenarios where it's useful, patients on chemotherapy are extremely malnourished. They have a lot of muscle wasting, and that's a scenario where the dark chocolate can help them help improve their energy and also their muscle function. And finally, metabolic syndrome, which unfortunately is so prevalent in this country. Just to define metabolic syndrome for people who don't have the background, it's the way we define it is it's pre-diabetes, and it's usually sedentary individuals, abdominal obesity, slightly elevated blood pressure, slightly elevated lipids, and most of those people, if you follow them over time, do develop diabetes. So that is a condition where this is also helpful. So I'm currently doing the placebo trial right now, double-blind placebo study, where I'm taking just sedentary individuals, so people that don't have diabetes, that don't have heart failure, that really don't take any drugs, but aren't very active, don't exercise, basically your typical couch potato, and I'm randomizing them to a dark chocolate group and to a placebo group, and the dark chocolate and the placebo chocolates look identical, and they almost taste the same. If you really taste it, you can tell the difference, and they're doing 2 squares for 3 months, and we're almost finished with the trial, but the things that we're looking at is I'm doing muscle biopsies on these patients before and after treatment. I'm also testing their exercise capacity. I'm also making them wear an accelerometer, which is a very unique device. Many of you might have heard about the Fitbit, which is something that you wear, but it can track the number of steps that you do, the number of stairs you climb. It's basically a nice way to figure out how active you are. We're doing that before and after treatment to see how active do people become towards the end of the treatment, and how active is the placebo group versus the dark chocolate group. And this is just actually one of my patients. He gave me permission to use this slide. He's a former NFL football player, and this is how we do our VO2 max testing. We put the electrodes on, and they actually have to breathe through that special little mask, and that's how we measure, and that's actually a sedentary bicycle where he pedals. And in the background, you see a computer. That's where I'm looking at the EKG leads. And so this is how we do our testing at UCSD. So that is the conclusion. Hopefully you guys enjoyed your chocolate. You appreciated the difference between milk and dark chocolate, and that you'll do your 2 squares a day. And I'm happy to